All right, welcome back, everyone. For our next session, I'm excited to introduce Marybeth Sheppard, the SVP of Marketing at SEVENROOMS, as well as Marco Marandiz, the Head of Marketing at Elliot, to chat about branding. So Marybeth and Marco, over to you.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Marco, how you doing? Thanks, Evan. Appreciate the intro.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. So I guess we can start off really quickly with introductions. I'm Marco Marandiz, Head of Marketing at Elliot. I have a very diverse background, I guess. Maybe it's not that diverse if you're in tech, but I was a musician, then a software developer, then a product manager, and then moved into direct consumer consulting, and now I run marketing for a B2B e-commerce platform. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And maybe you could tell us about you, Marybeth.
Yeah, Marco, as I said the other day, I love that you have all that product experience and sort of working on the other side of the house to bring on the marketing. So I'm excited that we have that to talk about. Hi, everyone. My name is Marybeth Sheppard. I've been working in B2B tech marketing for more than 15 years at this point in time. I spent time at an agency and I spent time at various in-house places. About the last 10 years, I've spent in the restaurant technology space. I worked at Grubhub and Seamless for about 5.5 years. And then the last 3 years, I've been at SEVENROOMS. In all of these capacities, sort of working in very integrated roles, from everything from driving brand and awareness to demand generation and through sort of to that onboarding, engagement, and retention marketing. And of course, excited to talk about branding with everyone today, because that really is the umbrella that ties all of the different types of marketing together. So Marco, why don't we just jump into it? We had a lot of fun, everyone on the call, to know that when we got introduced the other day, starting to talk about a lot of this stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. When we talk about branding, I think specifically for this audience, it's really about like, how do you stand out as a brand in what is relatively the space, what is the space where basically a lot of these businesses are competing on features. And for me, I think it's important to understand that the person you're trying to sell your product to, whether you're selling into an enterprise, is still a person on the other end making that decision about, am I going to, like, how am I going to purchase? How am I going to share this with my team and incorporate? How am I going to be a champion for that? And does it connect with me versus serving a practical value for your organization makes sense? But branding, I think, really ends up being the culmination of a lot of these experiences that, or a culmination of a lot of the touch points that your customers experience of your product. That includes the messaging, that includes the cadence of communication, that includes the product, the quality, all of those things. And that essentially, all of that together is your brand identity. It's pretty kind of nebulous in that sense, but you can own practically each one of these steps through customer support, through distribution, through however your business operates. So I've taken that approach because my background has been in software engineering. I've built the stuff, and then I was managing the direction of the product and launching these things internationally. And then I was working with direct consumer brands as well, trying to figure out how do you make something appealing to a specific psychographic more so than a demographic. So I've thought about it from that angle. But now at Elliot, really brand is a big differentiator for us, because there is, I mean, the product itself is a differentiator, but the brand is actually completely in a white space for B2B ecom. So I think brand has a lot of, I saw something the other day, somebody said, like, brand is the space between COGS and your price. And like, however much space you have in between that is how well you are able to organize all these other operational efforts, as well as finding the white space to be able to communicate with your customers. So anyways, that's just the way I was thinking about it. I thought I'd share that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you said really resonates with me. And, when I think about brand, and again, I spend a lot of time on the B2B side, it's like, it's that whole emotional element for your buying decision and the buying process. And as you're saying, you are marketing to individuals, and there's two components, right? When you're making the sale, one is you need to check those feature boxes. You need to be able to provide value to them and demonstrate. And the whole other thing are that experience of all those touches, as you say, that make you sort of fall in love with what the company is doing. And you've seen this over the years where companies are moving more towards being more vocal about what their mission is, what's their vision, because all of that matters. Today, when you're buying a SaaS product particularly, you are investing not only in the product that it is today, but where it's going in the future, and that innovation value of what you're buying. And to me, when people are buying into the brand, that they're buying into your ability to innovate and, you know, all of the things that it stands for. And you know, you and I talked about this the other day, but brand, sort of when you say that to people, it means a lot of different things. And, you know, certainly it's the collection of all the experiences, but the thing that's most tangible for people to think about for brand are, you know, big billboards or big ads, or, you know, the things that you might put out there to have people recognize your name. In my experience, it's the sum of all the little things that actually really change somebody's mind or instill that brand perception in someone. And the example I shared with you the other day, and I think everyone, it helps sort of crystallize my view on brand, is the example of the hold music for your customer support line, right? In that moment, you have someone who's frustrated. Something's not working, and in hospitality, if something's not working for someone, you might have a line at the host stand. You might got an angry customer back there at the table who was there for an anniversary dinner, and you want to get through to support to fix it. And in that moment, what's happening on the hold music is part of your brand. I mean, is it great music? Is it terrible music? Is it silent? Do you have a voice that sounds like mine that's a little hoarse from allergies, like saying something crazy? You just have to think about all of those touches. And it is not just your ads that go out with beautiful visual identity. It's the language that you use to describe your customers. It's how the internal team members react to each other, right? They're your biggest and best group of advocates out of the gate. And for us at SevenRooms, we do spend a lot of time working on brand. And, you know, for sure, employees are one of our most important brand audiences, because they deliver that brand every single day. So that's something I'm pretty passionate about, is making sure brand isn't just interpreted as your ads or sort of that visual component of what your website looks like. It's really that experience of working with all the people at your company, and, you know, that brand promise of like actually doing what you say you're about, whether it's that vision and that vision and mission and all of those things combined.
Yeah. And I think something that I'm just like hearing when you say it's rolling around in my head as you say this, is that like a lot of these things, your ads and your banners and your communications, all that stuff are applications of your brand. They're not actually, I think that's where the different touch points for your customer experience with your company, that ends up turning into the whole experience ends up being your brand. But really you have an identity that you're trying, an identity and a vision and a voice that you're trying to get across for your business, for your company. And that can be communicated through different channels. I talked about this a while ago, just on Twitter, some random tweet, but people thought it was interesting. And I've been playing around with this idea of like, everybody thinks about omni-channel, right? Be on every channel, make every channel work. And I don't think that's a bad idea, but I think especially for businesses that are getting started, pick the few channels that you can gain traction on and use those so that you're able to maximize the output there, the value that you provide. And you can actually build a very strong brand identity by being very good at a few things versus being 70% perfect on a lot of different channels, right? So I mean, like, for example, I have never seen a Quip, Quip the toothbrush. Mm-hmm. Like, I've never seen an ad for them. I've only ever heard about them through a podcast, ever. Like, I mean, but for me, their brand is very associated with the channel they use. It's an application of their brand that I guess they believe is aligned with the direction they want to go, and at least the audiences they're trying to serve. So, yeah, it's really
That's cool.
Yeah, I
So
don't know
maybe
about that,
one
but
thing I thought might be helpful for the audience is perhaps you and I could each share a little, but why don't you kick us off about, so Elliot's a newer company, right? How did you put together, what was that brand exercise that you went through, and how is it that you sort of share what are those core elements of your brand strategy with new hires, employees, and sort of how is that really conceived? Because I do think it's important for people to understand there's a real body of work around building a brand strategy. And if you skip over that work, you will find really big inconsistencies in how your brand is carried out and perceived across the market.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear that about you in SEVENROOMS as well. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think for us, the big thing that I undertook when I joined Elliot was to look at who was the demographic and like the mindset of the people we wanted to serve, and then really understood like where it's not a clean like workbook you go through to be like, this is the branding exercise and here's the output. There are a lot of questions we answered, there are a lot of like exercises we did, but in the end you kind of start to formulate ideas of, well, we're not really that and we're not quite that, but we're really this. And when you take a few of these core principles, you can expand those out. So for Elliot, the brand is it's bold, it's ambitious, it's a little confrontational. It's definitely for a younger audience. I think like for a younger group of more entrepreneurial minded folk. So what we did was we thought, okay, well, our customers are starting out their businesses. They're trying to scale their businesses. They want to feel a personal relationship there. And a lot of what's happening in commerce right now is very relationship driven. It's a lot of business development. It's a lot of social commerce. So you're selling through your Instagram account or your Twitter or whatever that is. So we thought, well, how do we make a brand that is aligned with what they see in the space where they would say, oh, I'm not joining a nameless and faceless platform where they just exist, that I see them. I wanted our customers to see us as a partner. So then we started like pulling like hip hop albums and like album covers and lyrics and just like a bunch of photography that we thought really represented what we wanted to be about. And from there, I mean, the branding, that nucleus of the idea maybe took a week or two to really like talk with the team, talk with our branding partners, our marketing agency, or our branding agency and design agency partners. But then it was 5 or 6 months of really like digging through and building different components of that out, right? It's not as simple as like, great, we got a logo and we got a color palette and let's put it. And I mean, I think we've all seen like subpar work from people who think that that's branding, but I think it was a lot about messaging, copywriting, color and typography is an aspect of that, but it's more of I think for us, is like more of a way that your brand can grow and evolve, almost like a person with a personality, so that what we're doing now, if we do something different in 6 months or a year, it's not off brand. It's not a completely different thing. It's that we can navigate. We have such a strong nucleus of who we are. We understand who we are as a brand, that the applications that we may create and invent in the future of our brand, the way we communicate, the way that we message and advertise, whatever, all of that actually feels very, feels like you're along for a ride. So that was our process. I mean, to break it down as simply as possible, team meets, work through 10 to 20 pages of a bunch of questions and exercises, and we did that stuff, and then brought in an agency that could help us think through that, and designers that could help us think through that and apply that, and then just worked like, not an external agency. They were literally a studio. Like they worked almost side by side with us. Actually, not almost, exactly side by side with us for months, thinking through every aspect and application of it. And I think you should feel comfortable being hands-on with the way your brand evolves. Outsourcing to somebody else to do the work is nice, but it's nice and it might be easy, but you're not going to have true alignment with where you want to go as a business.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that sort of external. So as I mentioned, I spent a long time at an agency, and I think that point that you nailed is right. Some of the most amazing branding agencies out there, right? But they're still agencies. They're not in-house. So they can guide you and do the design and they can take you through that. But you as the operator and as the in-house people have to really own it, and it has to resonate with you and you sort of live it and breathe it. So similar to you, I think, and I can take you through the 7Rooms example. I had in previous roles in companies, either when I was at the agency side or then in other roles where I worked with external branding agencies. At 7Rooms, when I started there, we were quite small, and they had never gone through a formal branding exercise, but they did absolutely have a brand. And I think the first thing that we looked at was making sure that brand that was sort of the relic from the super early days actually was what we wanted, where the business was heading and who the business was today. And I think that was where the exercise was really evolving the brand at that point, not sort of starting it from scratch, which is a cool exercise that you guys did at Elliot. It was because 7Rooms, we actually started a long time ago, the three founders, and it was really focused on the nightlife space. And the nightlife space at the time the company was founded was, you can imagine the velvet rope, very black, very chic and pointy and all of those things. And that was reflected in our logo and the fonts and the colors. And as we were growing and wanting to be accessible to a wider range of hospitality businesses, we had to really adjust that. Is what we're looking like and saying and all of these things, who we are today and what we want to be for the market and what the market needs, right? So similar to you, we really spent a lot of time as a group going through all the exercises. Are we this? Are we that? Are we this or that? What do we truly believe? And a lot of those things are easy to understand in the beginning, because if they're actually true, they crystallize, right? You can't just pretend that something is part of your brand when it makes one of the founders' skin crawl, or you just can't live it day to day. That's just a bad idea for branding. But we spent a lot of time on how does that translate into our vision, our mission that we can get people rallied around? How can we make that a source of inspiration for internal employees? I'm really big proponent of really firm brand messaging. If you can have that as your umbrella, everybody knows where to start on any project, right? Whether that's someone's doing ads or someone's doing creative, or even frankly, your tone and how you sign off in a support email, as I was talking about, right? All of that stuff comes down to it. So we went through that whole process. What is our voice and our tone? What are our brand attributes? What are those brand pillars? Like, how do we plan to deliver on that brand promise day in and day out? And I would say for the same as us, it was definitely a multi-month exercise, and we did engage external support for sort of the visual identity portion of the brand. But the biggest part of the brand strategy we did do in-house. And I think one of the things that was really helpful for us was crystallizing what is it that we want one thing to be known for. And we all know your very first marketing class or brand class, you have those examples of what certain brands are known for Avalvo, right? And you're known for safety and that sort of example. And for us, we have a very wide platform, very deep, and it does a lot of things. But the one thing that we really wanted to be known for and make sure people knew, right, is all around this concept of enabling direct relationships with guests for operators. That's the basis, we believe, in being able to do better service, increase repeat visits and orders. And so this concept of direct and all of that that comes out of that really stood as the foundation. And then the last thing what's really important to us is understanding what part of the hospitality space we wanted our brand most closely aligned with. So there's a lot of restaurant tech companies out there, and the focus is very much on the food, right? The food imagery. You see so much top-down imagery, right? Sort of the Instagram picture of it. And for us, we really wanted to own a space that was not in use anymore. And for us, it's about the moment, the experience of being out, right? I know pre-COVID life, right? We're all living in a lockdown, but you wanted to go somewhere that had a buzz and energy. It was about the experience and being out. And we very much wanted our imagery to reflect that. It's that anticipation. It's when you're cheersing the first drink at the table, right? It's not shoving the food in your mouth, right? And looking at, did your food have cheese or not? And so it was important to us to make sure that imagery and the language really reflected that the anticipation and the excitement of those really personal moments that come out of data, which is what our product does. So long-winded way of saying we were sort of evolving the brand, and we went through a very structured approach, and we revisit it. We're in the process of revisiting it right now. Obviously, COVID sort of flipped the hospitality space on its head. So we are revisiting. Is everything still relevant, is in our new world, this sort of new era that we're all living in and will be for some time?
Yeah, something that I've thought about is, and you were talking about this with like brand being, you mentioned like, is it safety? Is it, you had like, a couple different examples, and I've been thinking about the value of brand changing over time. So think about like brand in the, like, let's say Betty Crocker, right? Like I love this mindset of brand when there were no brands really, is like brand, and that brand was really around safety. You can eat this and we won't get sick, right? In like the 30s or the 40s, that was like probably a good thing. And that was the clear value that the brand provided. But I think as the standard of living and the access to options as this consumer society has grown, we also now have different, I think we also have different ways that we see the value of a brand, and what a brand actually says. I think there are very few examples that I can think of right now of exciting brands that you want to be a part of or you want to partake in, where it's about the value of the brand itself, versus I think a lot of brands now say a lot about who you are as a business, as a consumer. So I think that's shifted dramatically from like, this box of stuff is safe to eat and trust me, you'll be okay, versus this box says something about who you are and what kind of person you're. The kind of person that eats $8 cereal and not $2 cereal. So there's been that transition, which is why I think modern branding in the way that we're approaching it for our businesses is it's unique because we're seeing it as a tangible lever for the success of your business, not just the culmination of everything you've done. And whatever the brand ends up being is what it is. We're actually crafting different experiences and creating a narrative around who you are, how you interact with the world. And do you know who Emmett Shine is? Emmett Shine is the founder of Gin Lane. He branded a bunch of D2C brands in New York and all over the place. But one thing he said to me, which I always think about, is this orb. He says like, every brand that we create is an orb, and it's like this force field. And when you touch it, you are immediately like surrounded by it. And everything is that brand. Everything, you understand the world through that lens. He's like, the reality is a lot of the products that we brand aren't better than anything else. And a lot of times they're actually worse, but people will spend more money. They will ride for that brand. They will be very emotionally attached to it because it says a lot more about who they are and their values than the random makeup off the shelf at a grocery store compared to buying Glossier online, for example. So
I think that leads really, Marco, that the question that was asked, I marked that we would answer live because I think it speaks to a lot of what you're saying right now. So the question is, do you guys think a really strong brand can replace a lot of the more traditional marketing efforts and lead generation? So why don't you answer it and then I'll take a spin.
Yeah, I think I know I'm going to steal your line, but no, I mean, I think what it does is I don't know how to say it any other way. It greases the wheels for everything else you're going to do. I'm sorry, Marybeth. It's just so good. You said it so well the other day. I had to take it. So that's her line, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm a thief. But essentially, I think like these marketing efforts are very tactical, but the strategic way that you stitch them together is where I think you get a lot of value out of brand. And I don't think brand alone is enough. You can't just have a brand. You need to have you can't say, this is my brand, and you put it on Instagram and there you go, and you're going to make sales. You have to do the work of growing your business. But it does make it easier. And it does, I think, lessen the amount of channels and the amount of strategies you have. Like, I think it becomes very clear which channels work for your brand very quickly versus I'm going to try all these channels, and I have like, my name is Acme Inc. and we don't have any brand, and I'm just going to try all these channels and see what works. Cold outreach, I'll do phone calls, I'll do email marketing and Instagram ads. Like that without a brand doesn't have a direction for your business. There's no anchor, or like there's no center of gravity for the direction you're going. So I think that's, I don't know if it replaces, but it amplifies the channels that work, and clearly and quickly helps you minimize the channels that don't.
Yeah. So I'm on the same page as that. And the truth of the matter is you need brand because it makes everything, the entire life cycle, more effective and more efficient. So what I mean by that is your brand efforts are going to increase the results of your DMs, your lead gen, all of those programs. And where you can really see it is in the length of your sales cycle, right? And all of the hiccups where I find, think about now, let's say they were great. They went through the cycle, they signed up. It's 9 months in and they're coming up on their renewal. And you have to look back. Did they have a great year? How many hiccups did they have? Are they going to auto sign back up, or do they request an account review with their customer success manager? And in my experience, the interaction with the brand and their perception there is what's going to give you that, the cushion to go over the bumps, right? And to deal with it. Because when so many systems have feature overlap, or I don't know, let's say your product team is late and you told this customer something was going to be ready Q1 and it's not coming till Q2. Well, do they believe in you as a company? Have you shown them that history of success? Do they love where you're going and your mission and vision? Are they part of that, for us, the 7Rooms family, or, Team Elliot, whatever you guys call it? Are they on it? As you said, are they riding with you? And it's going to make those things more effective and efficient. And those are those brand experiences. Those are the language that, do you congratulate them on their anniversary? And these things don't take giant sums of money all the time. So for example, a simple automated email on the anniversary of their go live date costs exactly $0. But it's a connection that you can make in a personal way from your company and brand to theirs. So I guess to answer the question directly, I don't think it replaces it. They're both necessary. And I think that a well done brand, your brand strategy is really going to boost the results of all of your programs. So for example, part of that is bringing that consistency across different channels and across different teams. You can't have the demand generation team advertising one thing and sales talking about other stuff and CS having a different experience, right? The brand sits at the top of all the teams and all the interactions. And the little auto response from the lead, it's like every little thing is part of that brand experience. So again, I don't think it replaces it because it's part of it. It's like, it's the foundation, it's the core of all the different marketing that you're going to do across the entire life cycle, in my opinion.
And I think people would be surprised how many hats you have to wear when you're in charge of the brand, because you are in charge of design, logo, typography, messaging through like external marketing, messaging for a little tiny copy in your product, customer success, tone and voice,
in one
products you put out and in what order you put them out. And how do you, like, all of that? I'm involved in every conversation where I never thought I would.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that. There's one that in my own career has sort of evolved to be a bigger thing than, if you asked me 15 years ago, I would have been sort of pretty surprised. But we're in a very hot job market, right? And we want the best candidates, and they have to love you and want them. And this whole concept of talent branding, like, that was not even a word 15 years ago when I was like at the agency. Like, that wasn't something that the brand side of the house was really worried about. Today, that is absolutely something that is under the brand umbrella, is to make sure that when you're thinking about all your audiences, applicants and potential candidates are a big one, and it matters, right? What is that candidate experience? And that candidate experience has to be reflective of the brand, right? So that you're sort of getting them on Team 7Rooms, or, we call it a family, but in the 7Rooms family, when they're even applying and they walk into the office and, it's funny. We work way more closely with our people team than I would have imagined, again, 15 years ago. And that's because the people team is so important in terms of their interactions with internal employees, external candidates, even partners and clients who walk in and out of the doors of our office. Mm-hmm. The energy that you feel when you walk into someone's office is part of the brand, right? The music that you have playing in the office, mm-hmm. How loud is that music, right? The snacks you have on offer, like it's the total sum of all those experiences. So I would say to people on the phone that if you're in charge of the brand and you're not really in touch with the people team and someone on that side of the house, that's an area of opportunity for you to boost the brand, to make sure that everyone coming in the door is getting that experience that the same thing you're doing in your ads for prospects, right? You want to give that same much brand attention to all your audiences. Yeah.
Which can take a long time to get through every different touch point of your product and your business. So
it's right. It keeps us busy.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you busy. I think we are kind of running up on time. There's 30 minutes. Is that what this call is?
Like that. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Yeah. Any other questions from the panelists or from the audience? Or is Evan going to kick us off?
No. This has been awesome. I think we can totally go a couple minutes over if there are any other questions that come through, or if there's any other kind of key points you want to highlight that you haven't gotten to yet.
The one thing I would say, because it's something that we deal with every day at SEVENROOMS, is how the brand evolves, right? And those little things, definitely, I think one of the areas that naturally changes and you have to sort of keep tight is design. And again, you need to have some liberties in how you can design for different channels, right? And to be relevant in that channel. And you don't literally want every single piece of creative that you ship to look like a carbon copy of each other, else you're not going to get people's attention. You want it to feel relevant and timely to that moment in time. But you also got to watch it because it can't go off the ranch. So that's the one thing I would say about branding is consistency is everything. You need to set the strategy. You need to be consistent, understand it. Every little thing is part of your brand. And then sometimes you have to be the annoying cop, right? And you have to be like, yep, way out of left field, bring that back in. And that is unfortunately part of the job, is to make sure that consistency is there. And as you evolve it, you're doing it really intentionally and not just because some designer decided to do something so different, that it's an intentional decision when, how, and as you evolve the brand.
And I think there's another, just to add on to that, I think when you're creating a brand, I know adapting a brand to a new direction is different than creating it from scratch. But when you're in that process, having a very clear idea of who you are, not what you like, is very, very important. Because I'll talk to a lot of people who say, oh, I want to look different than everything else, but I want to look exactly like this page, and I want to look exactly like this page. And then like you haven't actually done any creative exploration about how you're supposed to communicate. You're just, and that's why I think we see with a lot of SaaS businesses, branding is a minimal, and not even a minimal effort. It's an application of like a style guide just to make it look decent. But then, I don't know, in certain categories, every SaaS product looks exactly the same. They all have the same animated character, illustrated characters, and the same color palettes. And like, that's not a brand. That's just a page. And I think a brand is beyond the design of your page. So anyways, I just wanted to add on to that. But it seems like Michael Hicks also asked a quick question. We are looking at automating our marketing sales efforts. What recommendations would you have? We are a B2B enterprise organization.
Wait, read that one. Say that again.
We're looking at marketing or automating our marketing and sales efforts. What recommendations would you have? We are a B2B enterprise organization.
So that's a big, wide question. I also love marketing automation. So if you want to give a little more direction, if not, I do think that in today's world, a marketing automation system is table stakes, right? Like most of the marketing that you're going to want to do or that people are going to expect of you and your team really necessitates having a marketing automation system. I happen to be a big Marketo fan, used them for forever in many different places and many different implementations. And we just got a great other question. But I do think starting there and making sure you have a really good sync between whether you're using sales, whatever your CRM is, we use Salesforce, and making sure that you have the data that you need there is the beginning of being able to automate things, right? You need to have the data to automate things. So, you need to be collecting the right data, keeping your database clean. And then you can start to think about how you automate things from lead assignments to automated email campaigns and things of that nature and their cycles. But yeah, so start with an automation tool is really step one.
I have nothing to add. That was great.
Awesome.
And the balloon is because it's my 4-year anniversary today. So my wife got us balloons and put them in our room. So
congratulations.
Awesome. Well, Marybeth and Marco, thank you both so much for being here with us today. We really loved hearing about all of your experience and insights, and when it comes to how you both think about branding. That was really great.
Great. Thanks, Evan. Bye, guys.
bye, Evan. Thank you.